This is Michael Smith of MedPage Today. I'm in Cape Town at the 5th International AIDS Society meeting on pathogenesis, treatment and prevention of HIV, and I'm speaking with Dr. Julio Montana of the British Columbia Center of Excellence in HIV and AIDS, who is also president of the International AIDS Society. Dr. Montana, in contrast to the International AIDS Conference, this meeting usually focuses on science. What's new this time around?
We focus on the science, but this year, for the first time, we have brought into the picture operations research. This is a new track for us, and really what it's trying to do, as I highlighted at the closing of the Mexico conference, is to try to develop the tools to close the implementation gap. What that means is that the science has grown tremendously over the last 20 years. The implementation of that science is floundering. It is not happening. We have a huge gap between what we know and what we should be doing and applying in the field. If we did everything we know right, we could eliminate HIV today, even though we don't have a cure and we don't have a vaccine. Between prevention and treatment and the reform of the human rights environment around HIV, we could deal with this. The problem is we are not implementing. And for that reason, even though this conference is not supposed to become political, at a time in which the G8 has basically dropped the ball, you hear us all very concerned and really we can talk about operation science without declaring the fact, without highlighting the fact that the donor commitment is failing, and that is not acceptable.
Despite the focus on science, there's a great deal of anger here about what is seen as the slowdown in the commitment to the goals of combating the pandemic. Would you comment on that, please?
Well, as you know, the original plan was 3 by 5. 3 million people on antiretroviral therapy by the year 2005. We never met that commitment, and certainly we all celebrate the fact that eventually we got to that number, although it took a couple of other years. But the reality is that the commitment was universal access by 2010. And guess what? We're 1 year away from 2010, and we're nowhere near universal access. And at the same time, the G8 is not even talking about it. The MDG for control of HIV by 2015 is not going to happen because there is no plan to get there. So we can't be making these commitments and then not follow them up, ignore them, and walk away from them. At this time, at the time of a fiscal crisis, you need to make the most rational use of your resources. We have now shown that chasing the tail of the epidemic is not sustainable. It's a bad use of the money. We need to incorporate treatment as part of the strategy to control the epidemic. And since we have shown that treatment is essential for the prevention of the spread of HIV, we need to encourage people to bring a higher degree of role of antiretroviral therapy because it will save lives, it will decrease morbidity of people infected with HIV, it will protect society from the crumbling as a result of the sickness of so many people affected, particularly in the African continent. But more importantly, in doing so, we are averting cases down the road. So we are making a very smart use of the resources. The time to scale up is today.
Dr. Montana, there have been a great many advances in treatment here in the developing world, but even here where antiretroviral therapy is more widely available than ever before, activists are saying that the stockpiles of drugs are in fact very low and in some cases running out. Can you comment on that?
Well, the current state of the role of antiretroviral therapy is in danger, in serious danger, because if we cannot make this effort sustainable, if we cannot build up on the achievements to date, namely improve the drugs that we're using, better drugs, safer drugs, replacing the old drugs that are problematic, toxic, and difficult to take, and even with significant side effects. If we cannot continue to optimize the way we roll the antiretroviral therapy programs, really we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Imagine the gains that we have arrived at are very, very fragile. They are crystal fragile. And what we need to do is consolidate the gains and build forward. As I said, if we don't do that, our investment on antiretroviral therapy, it's really not taking us anywhere. There will be a couple of million people here and there that have been treated with who have HIV. We would prolong their lives. It would be a palliative approach. They will run out of the therapeutic benefit for reasons of resistance or whatever else, and then we have to tell them goodbye. We don't care about you anymore. that is not a strategy that will allow us to control the spread of HIV and the morbidity and mortality associated with HIV. So if we approach this comprehensively, the best treatment available today, the best therapeutic strategy, will be cost effective. In fact, becomes cost averting. It will save us money down the road. So the time to make the investment is now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Montana. In Cape Town, I'm Michael Smith for MedPage Today.